That car was an expensive Lamborghini. I didn't see the man clearly, but I guess he's quite old. Because her clothes didn't match that sports car, I took a second look. That man seemed to be touching her in the car. A. Although Zhu Huili was chubby, she was still the first to stand up for Yun Jian and confront Emo Lianhua's sidekick angrily. Didn't you get separated from her at the gate? I saw it with my own eyes. She got into a Lamborghini sports car. The man in the car seems to be quite old. Emo Lianhua's lackey replied. In fact, she didn't see how the man driving the Lamborghini looked like or whether he was young. She only saw Yun Jian get into a Lamborghini sports car. Zhu Huili was an honest and down-to-earth person. She did get separated from Yun Jian at the gate. This was true. Therefore, after hearing what Emo Lianhua's sidekick said, Zhu Huili opened her mouth but couldn't say anything to refute. She didn't know what happened later. Emo Lianhua's sidekick immediately put on an expression that said, "You have nothing to say about this." Yun Jian didn't say anything from the beginning. Outstanding people always attracted the attention of countless people. Even if you sat still, people would come looking for you. Just as Emo Lianhua's sidekick was feeling complacent, Yun Jian, who was sitting in the distance, suddenly stood up. Before Song Yu could react from the sidekick's words, he saw that Yun Jian ignored them. She only greeted Zhu Huili and walked out. The fellowship party has started. Where are you going? Lu Zhenlin, the class monitor, didn't like gossip. He saw Yun Jian walking out and asked. Yun Jian only left one sentence for everyone, to pick up my 3 old friends. A. The leader of the intelligence team, Diane, gave Yun Jian a big hug when she saw Yun Jian coming over and spoke in fluent Chinese. Sister Jian, is there an emergency since you called us here? Yes. Yun Jian nodded and scanned their surroundings from the corner of her eye, looking at Diane and the other 2 girls. She looked at Diane and said, "It's not convenient here. See you tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon at Hungtong Old Street. Find a hotel to stay in first." Okay. Diane and the other 2 had never questioned Yun Jian's orders and simply followed them. After that, the 3 of them turned and left as if they had never been here. Yun Jian turned as well and returned to the gymnasium in no time. She had only gone to the school gate to meet Diane and the other 2. It was not appropriate for her to stay any longer, so Yun Jian returned to the gymnasium after setting the meeting place. Yun Jian was keeping a low profile this time. When she returned to the gymnasium, her classmates had already started playing games and were having a blast. Yun Jian went back to her corner discreetly, not planning to participate in the activities. She had more important things to do and more powerful enemies to deal with. She was different from this group of carefree students. However, before she could go back to her seat beside Zhu Huili, Pan Qian, who had said that Yun Jian had gotten into an old man's car, saw Yun Jian right away and started to stir up trouble in front of everyone. "Look, Yun Jian from our class is back. She said she was going to pick up 3 old friends, but I think she went to pick up 3 old clients. What's wrong? She's back so soon? Could it be that the 3 old customers you just went to pick up are all old men? How did they finish their business so quickly? TSK, you earn money fast. A. Chapter 2010. Pan Qian was the kind of person who would feel itchy even if she didn't pick a fight. Especially when there was something to pick on. The limelight had already passed, but Pan Qian still wanted to make things difficult for her. Otherwise, Pan Qian would feel itchy in her heart. In addition, Pan Qian was Emo Lianhua's #1 follower. Yun Jian had attracted Song Yu's attention for a while, so Pan Qian had been unhappy. She felt that her Emo Lianhua was the prettiest in the class and was the best match for Song Yu. Yun Jian actually wanted to attract Song Yu's attention? Bah! She was the president of the martial arts club through some unknown means? Then she, Pan Qian, would ruin her reputation. Because Pan Qian had spread rumors about Yun Jian before, Yun Jian didn't say anything. Therefore, Pan Qian increasingly believed that Yun Jian was afraid of her and didn't dare to challenge her, so she became more arrogant. Her words were so unpleasant that everyone present frowned. Qian, how can you say that? Every profession is not easy. Everyone has their own difficulties. Even if she sells her body to make money, it's also a kind of ability. You can't insult her like this. Mo Lianhua pretended to be pitiful. She held Song Yu's hand and shrank towards him as she softly reprimanded Pan Qian. Those who didn't know would really think that Mo Lianhua was speaking up for Yun Jian. Sister Lianhua, you're still too kind. You don't know the dangers of society. A girl like her is very scheming. Pan Qian patted Mo Lianhua's hand and glared fiercely at Yun Jian in the distance. Wasn't she just a poor person who didn't dare to resist and had no power or influence? She could sell her body for money. Shameless to the extreme. However, just when Pan Qian proudly thought that Yun Jian wouldn't resist her, a faint female voice sounded coldly. You can say it a few more times. This faint female voice was like the grim reaper from hell, causing everyone present to feel a chill run down their spines. Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, Pan Qian, Zhu Huili, and the class monitor Lu Zhenlin, including all the freshmen of Computer Science Class 13 present, as well as the people from other classes and schools who came to join in the fun, felt their hearts tremble. When they reacted, they were surprised again. Yun Jian actually asked Pan Qian to say it a few more times? Is she crazy? Ha! You're not really stupid, are you? You actually want me to say it a few more times? Pan Qian was also dumbfounded. Then, she looked at Yun Jian with a look of disdain. Could it be that he had hit the nail on the head, and he had said it in front of all the students, so he couldn't accept it and started to talk nonsense? Song Yu had already stopped paying attention to Yun Jian. At this moment, when he heard Yun Jian's words that came out of nowhere, his attention was attracted again. She was really a mysterious girl. Of course, if Pan Qian hadn't mentioned that matter, Song Yu would have definitely abandoned Mo Lianhua and turned to pursue Yun Jian. It didn't matter to Song Yu whether Yun Jian was a virgin or not, because there were plenty of young men and women at her age who would steal the forbidden fruit. Most of the young men and women went there for fun. Song Yu himself had also slept with many girls. But when he heard Pan Qian say that Yun Jian might be a mistress kept by an old man, Song Yu despised it. He was a man, and he was also the campus hunk of Dongfang University. Naturally, it was impossible for him to walk together with a girl who was kept as a mistress. Of course, Song Yu originally thought that at worst, he would secretly sleep with Yun Jian a few times, and his girlfriend would be someone like Mo Lianhua who could be taken out. That would be enough. As for Song Yu, he could dump his girlfriend at any time, so it was fine if she wasn't a virgin. But the woman who would spend the rest of his life with him in the future must be a virgin. This thought was shared by many young men. But please don't forget one thing. How fragrant do you think you are? Are you a fragrant bun? Second-hand goods like you are really worthy of such a clean girl. Go take a piss and look at yourself. The soul turned to reality. Just when Pan Qian, Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and everyone present thought that Yun Jian was stupid and began to talk nonsense. Yun Jian, who was sitting in a small corner, suddenly stood up in front of everyone. Pan Qian glanced over with contempt, only to see Yun Jian's hands hanging down. She grabbed the air with both hands. Two butterfly knives, shining with silver light under the fluorescent lights of the gymnasium, were held in her left and right hands, with the blades facing down. Just like the female assassins in the movies, Yun Jian grabbed the two butterfly knives. Her cold eyes darkened, and she slowly walked towards Pan Qian from the corner. Knife, knife, knife. Where did the knife in her hand come from? She actually hid a knife on her body. Everyone around was so scared that they screamed. An ordinary female student actually hid a knife on her body. But before everyone could react, Yun Jian was already approaching Pan Qian. Under her cold face without a trace of warmth, a red arc moved, and she said coldly, "Because if you don't say it now, you will never have the chance to speak again in this life." A. Chapter 2011. Imagine a female university student participating in a social gathering organized by her class. Suddenly, two butterfly knives appeared in her hands out of nowhere. Moreover, her action of taking out the butterfly knives was like a female secret agent in a movie, appearing in her hands in an instant. This was such a shocking action. At least everyone present was shocked. And the cold words coming out of Yun Jian's mouth made everyone present change their expressions in shock. Did she mean to kill Pan Qian? You, what are you going to do? Am I not telling the truth? You can't take it, so you want to kill someone? Let me tell you, if you dare to come near me again, don't blame me for being rude. Pan Qian was so frightened by Yun Jian's action that she took a few steps back. In the gymnasium, The scene that had just calmed down was once again noisy. But this time, it was noisy because of the two butterfly knives in Yunjian's hands. Yunjian, there are so many people watching. Don't be too emotional. Qian definitely doesn't have any bad intentions. I told everyone not to talk about you. This is nothing. Even if you really did, it's nothing. Everyone, stop talking about her. You, help say something. It's nothing to make money with one's body. It's all based on one's own ability. You, help say something. Mo Lianhua saw Yunjian walking towards Pan Qian with the butterfly knives. She couldn't help but panic. She was afraid that Yunjian would accidentally hurt her with the knives. She quickly grabbed Song Yu's strong arm and hid behind him. Mo Lianhua insisted that Yunjian made money with her body, which was the same as what Pan Qian said. At the beginning, Pan Qian and Mo Lianhua's words were enough to make the surrounding people misunderstand. If Yunjian stood up to clear her name at the beginning, not only would she not be able to clear her name, but it would also become the result of her desperately trying to clear her name, but no one would listen to her. Therefore, Yunjian was too lazy to explain from the beginning. As for now, Pan Qian's words meant to destroy her. It was not like at the beginning when she was just spreading rumors. If Yunjian didn't do anything, she would be a coward. Mo Lianhua grabbed Song Yu's arm and he tilted his head to look at Yunjian. Although Mo Lianhua was good-looking, the closer Yunjian got to him, the more Song Yu felt that Yunjian looked exquisite. Such a beautiful girl, if she wasn't a mistress, he would definitely pursue her and make her his girlfriend. Unfortunately, she was only qualified to warm his bed now. Stop fooling around. It's time for your class's social gathering. You don't deserve the knife in your hand. The blade will hurt your hand, and it won't be good if you bleed. Be good, give me the knife. Song Yu followed Mo Lianhua and took 2 steps towards Yunjian. He wanted to find an excuse to make Yunjian obediently hand over the butterfly knife to him. If Yunjian wanted to pursue the matter, then everyone at the scene, including freshman computer science class 13, as well as students from other classes or schools who came to join in the fun, were shocked. Pan Qian, who had been dealing with Yunjian, turned pale. Why not? The other 6 members of Team Monarch are here. Listen to them yourselves. Mo Bufan took a step back and let the 6 of them stand in front of the crowd. They're the other 6 members of Team Monarch? Everyone was stunned when Mo Bufan finished his words. The 7 members of Team Monarch were not superstars, but each of them had outstanding skills. They were more like superstars now, and their names were known throughout the country. Slashing God had been missing for 2 years. The other 6 members of Team Monarch did not work for nothing. They had set countless records in the past 2 years, pushing Team Monarch's name to the highest point. They used their actions to tell everyone that although they were not as capable as Yunjian, they would not be a burden to Yunjian. You're all here. Yunjian narrowed her eyes at Chu Ning and the other 5 who had matured a lot. Her words were simple. Just like before. Yes, we heard that you're back. Captain Lu Shiyun said, controlling his emotions. With that, Lu Shiyun took out a medal with the word Slashing God, engraved on it from his pants pocket and tossed it to Yunjian. He suppressed his excitement, and his firm words echoed throughout the place. Everyone was stunned as if they had seen Team Monarch's past achievements. This is a medal that we earned through our own efforts. It's engraved with each of our code names, symbolizing the 7 of us. I've been keeping it for you, and now I'm returning it to you. Yunjian, we've waited for you for 2 years. You're an invincible legend. You're a god in our hearts. Today, as the captain of Team Monarch, I formally invite you, Slashing God 006, to return to Team Monarch. A. Chapter 2013. She, Yunjian, was never someone who would not talk back after being insulted. Thus, after Hong Junhua finished speaking, Yunjian immediately followed up. Yunjian's nonchalance was tinged with a sense of dread. Hong Junhua was stunned. Chen Ilan and Hong Taishan were also stunned. What do you mean by that? After cursing your own mother, you're now cursing my daughter? Chen Ilan was eager to protect her daughter. When she heard Yunjian's words, she was furious and immediately slammed the table and stood up. Chen Ilan was a typical village girl. Even after marrying Hong Taishan, who later became rich, she still had the poverty in her bones. When the people around heard this, an old woman who used to know the deceased Lu Lanhua quickly stood up and said to Chen Yilan, Hey, what are you doing? Yelling and screaming before Lu Lanhua is buried. You're the unfortunate one. Amit ba. Let the bad ones go. Good luck is coming. Good luck is coming. The old woman was obviously very superstitious. She clasped her hands together and prayed left and right as she mumbled something. After hearing the old woman's words, Chen Yilan was still angry. She turned to look at Yun Jian and glared at Yun Jian. She said to Qin Yiru angrily, Daughters are meant to be daughters. Daughters are meant to be taken care of. Your daughter speaks rudely. When she goes out into society in the future, she will suffer a great loss. Those who don't know better will think that your daughter has no parents to raise her. Chen Yilan was the type of rich madam who fussed over every little thing. There was a shrewish streak in her bones that couldn't be reasoned with. Whenever someone said something she didn't like, she would scold them every time she looked at them. She was a typical commoner. Normally, after saying this, most people would stop talking and not say anything more. At most, they would just turn their heads and ignore each other. However, after Chen Yilan said this, she didn't care. She was already in her 40s, but she looked like she was going to rain dog blood on Yun Jian, who had just turned 18. You're scolding my daughter? You're scolding my daughter. Scold my daughter if you have the ability. What the hell was that? Did he think that he was powerful? Hee. At Lu Lanhua's funeral, Yun Jian did not want to cause any more trouble. At least, she wanted to save some face for Qin Yiru. Therefore, when Hong Junhua and Chen Yilan said a few words earlier, she did not directly attack them. She had already given them enough face. Moreover, Yun Jian was not a person who could endure silently. She was being bullied like this. If she did not retaliate, then sorry, she could not do it. Yilan, what's going on? A middle-aged woman walked out of the house. She was obviously a close relative of Chen Yilan's family. When she heard Chen Yilan's words, she quickly walked over and asked. This middle-aged woman was called Chen Yumei. She was the wife of Chen Yilan's younger brother. Many relatives and friends knew that Chen Yilan's family was well off. Chen Yumei wanted to curry favor with Chen Yilan, so she would often flatter Chen Yilan whenever she had the chance. As a matter of fact, Chen Yilan's scolding stopped after Chen Yumei asked her a question. Then she continued scolding. This woman is scolding my daughter. She's scolding my daughter to death. Hee. What the hell? Hee. She's even scolding my daughter. Chen Yilan seemed to be angry but had nothing to say. She kept repeating those words. However, just as Chen Yilan was scolding and shaking her body, Yun Jian suddenly interrupted Chen Yilan's scolding. If you move again you can die. Everyone was stunned when she said that. Then, Yun Jian reached out and grabbed the empty bowl in front of her. Without even looking up, she threw the empty bowl toward Chen Yilan. That bowl flew toward Chen Yilan's neck under everyone's gaze. When Chen Yilan sensed it, she froze. At the same time, she clearly felt the bowl fly past her neck by 0.1 millimeters. Ping pang. The bowl broke into pieces. Everyone looked in that direction. However, after the bowl fell to the ground, one of the broken pieces of the bowl flew up and directly pierced the fatal spot of a mouse that was moving so fast that it was impossible for people to catch it. The bowl slices pierced into the rat's body right in front of everyone's eyes, penetrating deep into the wood and killing the rat on the spot. When Chen Yilan saw the bowl fly past, she also turned her head to look. When she saw the shrapnel flying into the rat's fatal spot and penetrating deep into its body to kill it, she paled in fright when she heard what Yun Jian said just now. Everyone around was stunned. However, at this moment, Yun Jian stood up in front of everyone. Her expression changed slightly as she walked toward the rat that had died on the spot. The words that came out of her mouth made Chen Yilan and everyone else's faces change again. I told you not to move in front of me. So die. A. Alright, isn't Yun Jian back already? Chopsticks are for eating, not for knocking. If you knock like this, all the bacteria that you can't see will go into the bowl. Give me the chopsticks. Compared to 2 years ago, Chu Xiongnan was much calmer. He snatched the chopsticks from Chu Ning's hand and gave her a few instructions. It's none of your business. Chu Ning pursed her lips, looking like she did not mean what she said. These two are dating. Yun Jian, don't bother about them. Right, how have you been these 2 years? Jiang Weiwei interrupted Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan's conversation and asked Yun Jian. Hearing that Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan were dating, Yun Jian smiled but was not too surprised. After all, she could tell 2 years ago that Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan were quite compatible. On second thought, however, Jiang Weiwei was asking about her recent situation in the past 2 years. She had been staying in the Celestial Spring with CE for the past 2 years, 666 days, not a day less. Similarly, during the 666 days in the Celestial Spring, CE had not missed a single day of the embarrassing things he did to her. Once she thought about the 666 days and nights she spent in the Holy Spring. Her cheeks flushed and the tips of her ears burned. She tried her best to look calm as she answered, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. I've been living well these 2 years. A. Chapter 2016. My Yun Jian is amazing. How can she not be doing well? But Yun Jian, why is your face so red? Are you having a fever? Chu Ning asked when she caught a glimpse of the redness on both sides of Yun Jian's cheeks. Just like 2 years ago, Yun Jian's hair was tied up in a high ponytail and she was in high spirits. Since her rebirth, Yun Jian's ponytail had never been cut short. Yun Jian liked this style too. Her hair falling down affected her peripheral vision and alerted her surroundings. Her high ponytail tied her hair up high and her long hair flowed freely, giving her a relaxed and joyful feeling. However, there was one downside. Once her face flushed, there was no loose hair to cover the redness. Even her ears were exposed and her expression could be seen clearly. It's normal for a young lady to react this way. The stove at my house that cooks handmade noodles gives off a lot of heat. We're usually flushed when we come out of the kitchen. It's probably affected outside too. The restaurant owner came over with 2 bowls of piping hot pickled vegetables and shredded pork noodles that had just come out of the pot. He explained after hearing Chu Ning's words. As he spoke, he placed the 2 bowls of noodles on the table. These 2 bowls are pickled vegetables and shredded pork noodles. There are 5 bowls of other noodles. I'll serve all of you right away. The restaurant owner smiled and went to the kitchen as he spoke. With that, Yun Jian successfully concealed the truth of her blush. Oh, I see. Chu Ning nodded, looking like a great detective. The 7 people's noodles were served one after another. It was an ordinary supper, but everyone was having a great time eating it. Along the way, he also talked about the scene when the 7 of them first met each other, as if it was only yesterday and still vivid in their minds. Yun Jian, I still remember when you first came in. I kept picking on you and even made things difficult for you. You're so generous. If it were other girls, they'd probably be my nemesis for life. Jiang Weiwei could not help feeling guilty when she mentioned how she had picked on Yun Jian back then. You still know that you're bad. I thought you didn't know. At that time, I really wanted to ignore you for the rest of my life. You're so arrogant. Chu Ning was filled with anger whenever she mentioned Jiang Weiwei. Why are you still talking to me then, Xiaoning? Jiang Weiwei pinched Chu Ning's cheeks and burst into laughter. Anyway, it's good that everyone is doing well, Feng Xiaoran, who was usually quiet, said with a smile. That's right. Vice Captain Hong Fan nodded. The 7 members of Team Monarch had been through a lot to get to where they were today. Their future was not over yet. The starting point of a king has just begun. After eating supper and walking around for a while, Chu Ning and the others found a hotel to stay in and returned home the next day. Although Chu Ning and the others were disappointed that Yun Jian did not plan to continue studying in the military academy, they still respected Yun Jian's choice. At the same time, Chu Ning and the others also invited Yun Jian to visit their university's military academy when she was free. The military academy in the university was completely different from the Min City Military Academy in high school. Yun Jian agreed. Chu Ning and the others rushed back to school early the next morning. Of course, they were faced with the punishment for skipping class. Yun Jian arrived at Hengtong Old Street at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on time to meet Diani and the other 2. However, before Diani and the other 2 could see her, Yun Jian saw a few figures that she did not want to see. Hengtong Old Street was near the university town and was a popular place for couples and friends of the opposite sex to meet. Besides, the environment was good and there were green trees all around. Hengtong Old Street, as the name suggested, was an ancient street. Walking on Hungtong Old Street made one feel as if they had returned to the old streets when they were young. Some of the old streets were built in the 30s and 40s of the last century and had a very antique vibe. There was a constant stream of people coming and going in the food street of the old street every day. Of course, the place where Yun Jian met Diane and the other two was not in a crowded place. Instead, it was in a small pond pavilion on Hungtong Old Street. However, to get to the almost empty pond pavilion, one had to pass through the bustling old street. As a matter of fact, Yun Jian saw three people that she did not want to see: Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian. Look at the three of them. They came together as a group of young men and women. The group of young men and women were generally good-looking and beautiful. They must have come out to shop during the day. Chapter 2017. With just one look, she could tell that the car's specifications were low, and she even listed out all the specifications of the car, just like the salesperson who sold the car. Everyone around them was stunned. Even Chen Ilan's sister-in-law, Chen Yumei, widened her eyes in shock. It was obvious that she was shocked. Hey, whose daughter is this little girl? You really do sound like you know how to do it. A woman sitting at another table couldn't help but mutter as she held a baby with a pacifier. That's right. The last time my family went to a car dealership, we were thinking of buying a car to go home. This little girl's words matched the salesperson's words. Just the numbers of the car's speed and horsepower are different. She's really professional. A middle-aged man with a crew cut stroked his bald head, which only had a little black hair left, and joked with a laugh. Then, everyone around them praised her. After everyone recovered from their shock, they began to discuss who Yun Jian's daughter was. After all, they were all distant relatives and usually wouldn't meet. Some of the younger generation would only gather together when something big happened when they were in their teens. However, under normal circumstances, when something big happened, everyone would sit around the table and have a meal. Most of the time, they would chat with their close relatives. Usually, at this time, you could only see the faces of your distant relatives. Some of them might be familiar, but you wouldn't know which one of your distant relatives she was or what the relationship between them was like. But for someone like Yun Jian, who stood out a little and had nothing to do, the relatives who were chatting casually would turn their attention to her. Therefore, after the two people finished talking, the group of people around them started to ask about Yun Jian. Which family's daughter is this? Listening to what she said, she's quite capable. She'll definitely have a bright future. Someone asked. This is the daughter of Yun Gang and his ex-wife, someone answered. The little girl is so eloquent at such a young age. She'll be very eloquent in the future. Although these people were praising Yun Jian, no one took Yun Jian seriously at that time. They were just talking about Yun Jian to pass the time. As for Yun Jian's words, "I'll never drive a sports car that costs less than 10 million yuan," no one took it to heart. Some of the people present took these words to heart, but they didn't take it seriously. This person was Chen Ilan. No one was more shocked than Chen Ilan when she heard what Yun Jian said just now. It was because what Yun Jian said was exactly the same as the car specifications and configuration that the salesperson had listed when her family went to the car shop to buy a car. Even the numbers were exactly the same. Therefore, when she heard Yun Jian's words, Chen Ilan's eyelids twitched fiercely. After being stunned, Chen Ilan was unconvinced. Yun Jian said, "I'll never drive a sports car that costs less than 10 million yuan. You don't drive a sports car that costs less than 10 million yuan? What do you drive? Tricycle? A tractor? Are you trying to use a tricycle and tractor to see who's faster than my sports car?" Chen Ilan blocked Yun Jian directly, stopping Yun Jian, who was about to leave, from moving forward. She stood where she was, refusing to give way. Yun Jian was going to retrieve her car and return to Longmen City to complete what Qin Yiru had asked her to do, but Chen Ilan blocked her way. "Move!" Yun Jian's indifferent voice rang with a sense of dread that made one's heart clench tightly. Chen Ilan was not afraid, however. She stood in Yun Jian's way. "You scolded my daughter just now, saying that our car's specifications are low. How can you be like this? You even asked me to move aside. Ha! Move aside? Apologize to me first before you leave. Ha! I've never met someone like you, learning to scold people at such a young age." Just as she said that, Yun Jian extended her right leg and kicked Chen Ilan to the ground, rolling away from the spot in front of her. After that, She walked forward with her hands in her pockets as if nothing had happened, leaving a simple and indifferent remark. Childish and boring. A. Perhaps it was because Yun Yi was a guy, but in front of a typical woman like Chen Yilan who thought that guys were better than girls, she felt that guys were bolder. Therefore, Chen Yilan dared not pursue Yun Jian for revenge. However, she was displeased and it was impossible for Chen Yilan to not find fault with Yun Jian because of this. Yun Yi could control her actions but she could not control her mouth. Therefore, Chen Yilan described Yun Jian as shameless in front of the group of women and old ladies. Oh my! I've never seen such a shameless girl. She's a student but she's living like a socialite. She's just like those girls in nightclubs who have no self-respect and self-respect. Chen Yilan was spreading rumors about Yun Jian in front of the group. She even waved her hand as she spoke, as if Yun Jian was really such a person. One must know that unmarried girls in the countryside valued their reputation the most. What Chen Yilan said was equivalent to trampling on Yun Jian's reputation. Perhaps it was because Chen Yilan's family was rich, the people around them listened to her without a doubt. Even when Qin Yiru interrupted to say, "My Xiao Jian isn't such a person," no one paid any attention to her. Ha, that kind of girl. Not only do she go to bars and nightclubs, she likes to brag too. Didn't she say that she never drives a cheap sports car that's less than 10 million? Does she? Does she? She doesn't. Screech. While Chen Yilan was speaking, a fiery red Ferrari flagship limited edition supercar drifted at a high speed, braked not far from the crowd, and stopped. The car door opened and a girl who was dressed neatly got out of the driver's seat. She was so beautiful that no one could take their eyes off her. The girl's appearance halted Chen Yilan's words. Chapter 2019. According to past practice, if anyone dared to be presumptuous in front of Yun Jian, they would end up dead. Diani's tone was as flat as, "Have you eaten today?" But it sent shivers down Pan Qian, Emilianhua, Song Yu, and the others' spines. Gun, gun? Gun, gun? Is this a real gun or a fake gun? Pan Qian was stuttering, shaking violently. She was obviously spooked by Diani's action of taking out a gun. This must be King fake gun. I've seen a real gun before. It's really heavy. This foreign woman is scaring you. Say, Qian, how do you know this beauty? Aren't you going to introduce her? The boy who asked Pan Qian if she knew Yun Jian spoke confidently, even sizing up Yun Jian as he spoke. To attract Yun Jian's attention, the boy flipped his short hair. At the same time, Diana maintained her posture of pointing her gun at Pan Qian. She was waiting for Yun Jian's reply. As soon as Yun Jian gave the order, she would shoot Pan Qian dead. Once they heard the boy say that Diani was holding a fake gun, the group snapped out of their fear. Pan Qian was no longer afraid as well. She reached out to slap away the gun that Diani was pointing at her head, but the latter dodged it nimbly. So fast. One of the boys could not help exclaiming when he saw Diani's nimble dodge. Kids, let me give you a piece of advice. Get out of Sister Jen's sight right now or don't blame us for taking your lives. Gui Lian spat coldly after a glance at Yun Jian before turning to meet Pan Qian and the others' eyes. Take our lives? Do you dare? If we die, you'll be in jail for the rest of your lives too. Pan Qian refuted loudly when she heard Gui Lian. After that, Pan Qian studied Yun Jian from left to right before she spoke again. You're right. Yun Jian, I don't know where you found this actor. His acting sucks. If you really want to be a gang leader and mingle in the underworld so much, then why don't you become the gang leader's woman? Since you already have a rich boyfriend, it doesn't matter if you hook up with another one. But that's definitely a disgrace to Team Monarch's Killing God title. Humph. Did your rich boyfriend buy you the title of Team Monarch Slashing God too? God knows if you're really that powerful. I think you'll be scared half to death when you see blood in an official gangster scene. Pan Qian glared at Yun Jian and continued to clamor. However, just as Pan Qian said this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Seeing that there was no one around, she crossed her arms and coldly ordered Diana, "Listen up. Deal with it. Remember not to leave any traces behind. I still have to stay in Rivertown for a while." The 3 words dealt with were so flat that one couldn't feel the slightest rise or fall in it. However, this caused Pan Qian and the others to panic for no reason. Why were you guys? Don't get too immersed in the act. Let me tell you. Pan Qian stuttered as she pointed at Yun Jian and the other three. Chapter 2020. Chen Yilan knew nothing about cars. She had only seen a sports car that was similar to the one Yun Jian was driving at a car rental shop. Sports cars all looked the same, so the price wouldn't be that expensive. Chen Yilan thought so. Therefore it was natural for him to think so. Car rental shops existed in every city. That kind of shop usually put the old cars in the shop for people to rent. For example, if you didn't have a car at home and needed a car today, you didn't need to buy a car to go home. At this time, you could just go to the car rental shop and rent a car to go home. The rental fee was also calculated by the daily fee. For example, if the rental car was an expensive sports car, the fee would naturally be higher than the car rental. If it was an ordinary car in 2002, it would only cost 80 to 90 yuan a day. Yun Jian's words just now caused an uproar in the hearts of the people present. Ferrari LaFerrari's flagship limited edition sports car. Most of the people present were from the countryside, so they didn't know much about it. But Yun Jian said that there were only 3 cars in the world, and the lowest price was 50 million yuan. Everyone present heard it clearly. You only sold 3 cars in the world? This came from a slightly knowledgeable middle-aged man. 50 million? This. An old woman heard this, rolled her eyes, and stammered. She was so scared that her whole body trembled for a long time, and she didn't react for a long time. 50 million. Not to mention 50 million, even if it was 500,000 yuan, it was still an absolutely shocking and astonishing astronomical number. As for Chen Yilan, when she heard Yun Jian's words, she had already rolled her eyes. Her whole body was muddled, and it was obvious that she was scared badly. This car was worth 50 million yuan? To be honest, Chen Yilan really didn't know much about cars. She was also a woman from the countryside, and was lucky enough to meet her husband, Hong Taishan, who was originally from the city. When Chen Yilan and Hong Taishan got married, it was considered that she married into a higher social class. Who in her village didn't envy her? Later, Hong Taishan set up a plastic processing factory and made some money back. He took a risk and expanded his investment in the plastic processing factory. There were dangers, but in the end, he made back all his capital. After making a fortune, the whole family moved to the big city to live. Chen Yilan also lived the life of a rich lady that others envied. However, if Chen Yilan followed him to live in the big city, she would be purely a housewife who knew nothing. When she said that Yun Jian's car was similar to the sports car she had seen before, Chen Yilan felt guilty. Because the sports car she saw was similar to Yun Jian's car, but it was much inferior to Yun Jian's car in terms of appearance. Now that she heard Yun Jian's words, Chen Yilan instantly felt like she had shot herself in the foot. Her expression changed drastically, and she looked so embarrassed that she couldn't bear to look straight at her. I've never seen a 50 million supercar before. Who knows if you're bragging or not? Chen Yilan said sourly. I didn't buy this car for 50 million. 50 million is the lowest price. I bought it at an auction for 300 million renminbi. Yun Jian said bluntly after Chen Yilan finished speaking with a cold smile. Since Chen Yilan wanted to compete, then she would play with her. It was a reward for Chen Yilan slandering her in front of those women. Unsurprisingly, Chen Yilan's face turned even paler after hearing this. However, it wasn't over yet. When Chen Yilan's face turned pale, Chen Yilan's husband, Hong Taishan, lowered his eyes and suddenly recalled what his brother said. This is indeed a Ferrari LaFerrari's flagship limited edition supercar. But isn't this one of the 3 supercars that were sold at sky-high prices at the largest international auction house a few years ago? I heard that one of the 3 supercars was bought by a top international business tycoon. The other one was bought by the 3rd richest person in the world. There's still one more. As he spoke, Hong Taishan turned to look at Yun Jian in disbelief. He swallowed hard and exclaimed in front of everyone, Yun Jian, you're the one who's going to die. The first 2 were bought by men. I heard from someone who knows the business that the last supercar was bought by one of the top figures on the International Secret Service assassin list. So, could it be that you are? Chapter 2021. Could it be that you are one of the figures on the International Assassin ranking list? Because the first 2 were men, their identities, appearances, and ages were all public. Everyone knew their background. Only the figure on the International Assassin ranking list is extremely mysterious. Rumor has it that the LaFerrari sports car that the man bought was already reserved. When the first and second LaFerrari were put up for auction, the highest bid was 500 million. But only the third LaFerrari was bid at 300 million, because no one dared to challenge the figure on the international assassin ranking list. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. In that case, you are. Hong Taishan looked at Yun Jian with a panicked and helpless expression in front of everyone. His face suddenly changed, as if he had seen the Grim Reaper. He was so scared that his face turned pale, and his lips and teeth trembled. International Assassin Ranking List? What's that? Yeah, Taishan. What's that? We have never heard of it. The surrounding old women all blinked when they heard Hong Taishan's words, indicating that they didn't understand. That was not strange. For these old women and women who lived in the countryside, their favorite thing to do was to gossip about other people's business. But most of the gossip was about who had an affair, whose child was admitted to a key high school, and whose child was so powerful. Or whose child was admitted to a university. But after coming out to work, there was no place for him to work. In the end, he could only do odd jobs. How pitiful. Some were complaining, some were gloating, and some were sympathetic. But these gossipy women were talking about nothing more than trivial things. Occasionally, when something big happened, such as a daughter or son in the village who died in an accident, they would talk about it as if the sky was falling down. Some would even gloat and say, "Serves you right. You make a lot of money, but you don't have the life to enjoy it." However, the gossipy women in the countryside were talking about these trivial and insignificant things. Usually, these trivial things were not worth mentioning. As for the International Secret Service assassin rankings, there was no internet or smartphone in this era, so the gossipy women had no place to learn about it. Naturally, they didn't know anything about it. When Hong Taishan heard this, he glanced at Yun Jian and said with some fear, "Agents and assassins are people who specialize in killing people. They are similar to the assassins in ancient times." It was the ranking of the most terrifying Secret Service assassins. Those who are ranked at the top have killed the most people and are more powerful. Some of them would even walk right past you, and you wouldn't even know when they killed you. It was a killing machine specially trained by some assassin organization. It was terrifying. Don't rich big shots often die suddenly in the world? Many of them didn't die of their own accord. They were assassinated. Every word that Hong Taishan said was explained to the people around him in great detail. It could be seen that Hong Taishan was a very meticulous person. Not to mention that Hong Taishan also liked to show off. Just by looking at Hong Taishan's meticulous manner, it was not surprising that he could develop a small plastic processing factory to its current state and become the key to his family's fortune. When the old women and women around them heard Hong Taishan's words, they even nodded with an "oh," looking very frightened. Chen Ilan's expression changed again and again. She knew that her husband Hong Taishan would not speak carelessly. However, just as Chen Ilan's expression changed again and again, and the people around them were looking at the scene in front of them, obviously frightened, Yun Jian's words suddenly came faintly. This group of people who were listening to a ghost story suddenly saw a person pretending to be a ghost. Similarly, their hearts were fiercely touched. Have you said enough? A. Chapter 2022. As soon as Zhou Huntao finished his words of admiration, a boy from the martial arts club punched Zhou Huntao and said with a chuckle, "Keep bragging. Your bragging won't get you. The chairman of New Cruise is so mysterious. He's a mythical figure that even world-class bigwigs want to meet. How could he possibly meet someone as ordinary as you? I heard that New Cruise rose to prominence in the past 3 years. I heard that it only took them a year to become the biggest car marketing company in Country Z. Then, it took them another 2 years to step onto the international stage. Now, they're a household name. Look, they're even on TV. But the chairman of New Cruise is really mysterious. It seems like the chairman of New Cruise, Zhang Zhifan, has been managing the company for the past few years. Whether it's the TV footage or the photos of the chairman of New Cruise, countless private investigators have tried to find out but to no avail. I really want to see the real face of the chairman of New Cruise." As he spoke, the boy began to sigh. To them, although they felt that they would never be able to meet the chairman of New Cruise in their lifetime, they still wanted to know what the chairman of New Cruise looked like, be it height, or weight. As they entered the year 2000, color TVs and cars were becoming more and more common. In this era, Country Z's economy was rising at a speed faster than a rocket. The people's standard of living had also undergone a drastic change to the point where foreigners were amazed. Therefore, it was not surprising that there were color TVs at this time. We want to see it too. That's right. I wonder when we can see the real face of the chairman of New Cruise. I'm so King excited. The members of the martial arts club woke up early for their morning practice. As long as there were no classes in the morning or afternoon, they would obediently head to the club's training ground to train. After a month, everyone's collective strength had improved by quite a bit. Everyone's admiration for Yun Jian grew as well. At the same time, everyone was surrounding Yun Jian as they walked back to school. No one noticed the slight glint in Yun Jian's eyes when New Cruise was mentioned. On the way back to the dormitory, Yun Jian parted ways with the members of the martial arts club. Unexpectedly, just as she reached the dormitory, Yun Jian bumped into Gu Nianji, who had come to Zhongqing to play with Yun Jian. Ah! Yun Jian and Qing Yu had been abducted. I'm the only one left. How pitiful! Gu Nianji rushed up and hugged Yun Jian, pointing out that Qing Yu had been abducted by Yun Yi in exasperation. Because her roommates were in the dormitory, Gu Nianji didn't want to go up, so she dragged Yun Jian to go shopping. She even criticized Qing Yu for being unkind while they were shopping. Chapter 2023. Looking at the tombstone covering the grave and sealing it, Yun Jian felt a sense of desolation. She sighed for Lu Lanhua's life. Perhaps, this was Lu Lanhua's life. She had spent her life protecting her children and grandchildren, favoring boys over girls. She had hoped that one day, her son or grandson would become rich and bring her away from Xinjiang town to enjoy life. She had lived in Xinjiang town since she was born and had placed all her hopes on her son. She had never thought that as a woman, she would have to rely on her own two hands to make a career for herself in this lawful society. This was Lu Lanhua's tragic life. Her failure was because she did not have her own opinions when she was young. Women should strive for self-improvement. A person could only succeed if they set their dreams and hopes as their life goal. If they did not even give themselves some hope and dreams, then what was the difference between their life and Lu Lanhua's? Or perhaps, many people would feel this way. One day, when you heard the news of the death of someone you were so close to that you wanted to kill even in your dreams, you would be dazed for a moment. She was dead. Then, there would be silence, as if something was missing from the bottom of your heart. This was the unfathomable human heart. Yun Jian did not feel this way. She had not spent much time with Lu Lanhua. To her, Lu Lanhua was just like those people she had killed, not worth mentioning. After sending Lu Lanhua up the mountain to be buried, the group returned to Lu Lanhua's house. Grandfather Yun Zhong was the same as Yun Gang. He had been hiding at home, unable to believe the truth. After all, they had spent most of their lives together. It was inevitable that they could not bear to see her leave just like that. Yun Jian had only seen grandfather Yun Zhong when she sent Lu Lanhua up the mountain to be buried. Unlike the energetic Yun Zhong in the beginning, grandfather Yun Zhong seemed to have aged a lot in an instant. After sending Lu Lanhua up the mountain to be buried, Yun Zhong and Yun Gang each hid in their own rooms in a daze. Qin Yiru had divorced Yun Gang after all, so it was not right for her to say anything. However, Qin Yiru was quite kind-hearted. She and a group of old ladies who came to help the Yun family clean up and prepare the dining table. They invited the relatives and friends who came to see Lu Lanhua off today to a big meal. Dinner was quickly prepared. Just as they were about to invite everyone to the table for dinner, a silver-gray supercar drove around the corner and stopped near Lu Lanhua and Yun Zhong's house. Coming. My cousin is here. A middle-aged man in his 40s, who had just come over for dinner, stood up excitedly and walked towards the silver-gray super sports car. Everyone saw a handsome man in his early 30s alighting from the silver-gray sports car. This man looked very mature and steady, and his appearance was completely different from the large group of beer-bellied middle-aged men present, who looked short and ugly because of their fat bodies. This car is the same as the daughter's Ferrari and the Lan family's Corpo. They're all sports cars, right? An old woman rubbed her hands and asked in a daze. A Ferrari is called a Ferrari, and a Camaro is called a pineapple. The old woman from the countryside was really good at translating languages. Grandma, what Ferrari and Corpo? It's Ferrari. And Corpo. 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 The old woman's grandson laughed and nodded as he slowly explained. Okay. Ferrari, Corpo, they're all pretty much the same. I was wondering what was going on today. Why are all of them driving those sports cars? Could it be that the prices of those sports cars have dropped? This old woman has never seen so many high-class cars in her entire life. I've learned something new today. As she spoke, she grabbed Yun Jian and walked in the opposite direction of the hospital's entrance. What Gu Nianji meant was that she did not see Song Yu as a human. Song Yu understood what she meant and flushed with anger. However, he could not lash out in front of Yun Jian. Just as Song Yu was fuming but unable to lash out, Yun Jian's phone beeped. Yun Jian glanced at the screen. Sister Jian, what's wrong? Did Brother Yi text you? Gu Nianji glanced at Song Yu and went to Yun Jian's side to ask loudly on purpose. No, Yun Jian replied softly and added after a pause. Let's go. My disciple is here for me. Ha! Zhang Xiaofeng's here in River City too? Haha, why didn't he team up with me since he's here? To think that I'm his sister now. Gu Nianji spat. Song Yu, who stood on the side, had no idea who Yun Jian and Gu Nianji were talking about. He clenched his fists. Yun Jian's eyes were narrowed and red as she replied faintly. It's not him. It's my new disciple. Just when Song Yu thought that Yun Jian and Gu Nianji would fight to get in, a fiery red flagship limited edition Ferrari, LaFerrari, came drifting from afar with a hard brake and parked beside Song Yu's Mercedes-Benz sports car. When the two cars were parked next to each other, it was easy to tell which one was more expensive than the other. Just as Song Yu was stunned, the sudden appearance of the limited edition LaFerrari sports car that only 3 units were sold in the world, the supercar that was usually talked about and envied by the boys, was right in front of him. While he was amazed and wondering about the origin of the sports car, a woman walked out of the car. A woman got down from the Ferrari LaFerrari and went to Yun Jian, passing the car keys to her right in front of Song Yu and saying softly, I'm sorry. Sister Jian, your car. The limited edition sports car that he talked about with the boys, the one that they could only dream of but could not get their hands on, was Yun Jian's. Song Yu's eyeballs were about to fall out of their sockets. At the same time, Yun Jian and Gu Nianji had already gotten into the Ferrari sports car. Before they left, Yun Jian left Song Yu with a statement that made him look like he had just eaten tea. The words that came out of her mouth nearly made Song Yu vomit blood. I'm sorry, your Mercedes-Benz sports car specifications are too low. I've never sat in such a low-quality sports car and I'm not used to it. Chapter 2027. The slap sound was originally very soft. It was so soft that only the two of them, Gu Nianji and Li Nong, could hear it. However, the park was very quiet. It was so quiet that even the chirping of birds and insects could be heard. In such a quiet park, Li Nong saw that Gu Nianji, who was choking and coughing, was almost out of breath. He reached out to kindly pat her back to relieve her. However, he never expected that his long, fair, and neat fingers would accidentally pick up the strap of Gu Nianji's underwear. This was the first time he had touched a woman's underwear strap. Li Nong felt his earlobe burning a little, so he didn't show it on his face. However, his heart was in a panic, and he quickly withdrew his hand. He pretended not to notice that the hand that was holding the underwear strap had withdrawn too quickly. The underwear strap was like a rubber band, and it directly rebounded on Gu Nianji's skin with a slap sound. Li Nong was so scared that he almost retreated. His pure, curious, yet panicked face actually revealed a trace of red. Obviously, this was the first time Li Nong had accidentally touched a woman's underwear strap. Yun Jian also heard the slap sound. At that moment, Yun Jian only blinked. I'm sorry. Li Nong scratched his delicate hair and said softly, You. What's the use of apologizing? You rascal. So what if you're a god from the gods' continent? How dare you touch me? Gu Nianji blushed when she thought of this. In the next second, Yun Jian saw Gu Nianji chasing Li Nong all over the park. In a place where Yun Jian couldn't see, Gu Nianji chased after Li Nong. She couldn't catch up to Li Nong, but she refused to give up. As she ran, Gu Nianji suddenly tripped over a tree root in the park. She cried out and fell forward. Be careful. Li Nong stopped running. He was about to catch Gu Nianji, but she suddenly pushed him down. In the next second, by the time Gu Nianji reacted, she was already sitting on Li Nong. However, the two of them never expected that Gu Nianji would actually sit directly on Li Nong's thigh with that fall. It just so happened that there was a thin layer of clothing between the two of them, and they were not far apart. Ah! In the next second, Yun Jian heard Gu Nianji scream. 3 minutes later, Gu Nianji ran back from afar in a huff. She glanced at Yun Jian and told her, "Sister Jian, I'm going back to the hotel before running off." Yun Jian's eyes lit up. Li Nong had come to look for Yun Jian. That was right. So Yun Jian asked Li Nong to get a room at the hotel where Gu Nianji was staying. Yun Jian had no idea what happened between Li Nong and Gu Nianji after that. 3 days later, Yun Jian secretly went to the hospital for a pregnancy test. Yun Jian was still in a daze when she received the list. She's actually pregnant. The baby is a month old. More than a month. Wasn't that the time at the beach by the rock? It turned out that she did not take birth control pills that day and was really pregnant. Although the mystery man was still alive and Yun Jian was afraid that her pregnancy would cause problems, she was both surprised and delighted when she heard the news. She did not plan to tell Ce about her pregnancy right away. Ce would definitely be surprised if he knew, but looking at the time now, the mystery man should have recovered and could assassinate her and Ce at any time. If he knew that she was pregnant, he would definitely protect her with his life. Therefore, even if she had to tell him, Yun Jian planned to tell him later. However, just as Yun Jian was about to stuff the pregnancy test into her pocket and walk out of the hospital, a slender and well-defined hand snatched the pregnancy test that Yun Jian was about to stuff into her pocket. His familiar voice rang out immediately. "What's this?" Yun Jian looked up and saw Ce's handsome side profile that made one forget to breathe. Yun Jian did not expect Ce to come to her at this juncture. She was so shocked that she wanted to take the pregnancy test back from Ce. However, it was too late. Ce's deep gaze had already scanned the doctor's note beside the pregnancy test. Pregnancy confirmed. Chapter 2028. The words, "pregnancy confirmed," were striking. When Ce saw the words, his dark eyes twitched violently. His Xiao Jian was pregnant? He had a child. "Xiao Jian, are you feeling unwell? Are you feeling unwell?" Ce stuffed the pregnancy report into his pants pocket after reading it and wrapped his arm around Yun Jian's slim waist like he was protecting a national treasure. "Did she kick you?" Ce placed his other hand on Yun Jian's abdomen and stroked it gently. For the first time, his handsome face that was infuriatingly handsome yet aloof showed a surprised smile. "It's only been a little over a month. She shouldn't be in human form yet, right?" Yun Jian blinked. Ce was clueless about all this. He even thought that the child would kick its mother's stomach once she was pregnant. At the same time, Yun Jian was about to walk out of the hospital. When they were about to go down the stairs, Ce scooped Yun Jian up horizontally and turned to head to the gynecology department. Yun Jian blushed like a red apple. It was an expression she would only show in front of Ce. "Where are we going?" Yun Jian's eyes flickered when she saw Ce carrying her back to the gynecology department. She did not know why. "We're going to ask the doctor how to prevent miscarriage." Ce was clueless, but he was willing to learn for her. "I can walk on my own," Yun Jian said with a blink as she was carried by Ce through the crowd in the hospital. All the passers-by who passed by Yun Jian and Ce stole a glance at the couple from the corner of their eyes. Oh my God! The two lovebirds were carrying each other in a princess carry. All the passers-by turned to look at them. However, Ce did not care about that. He carried Yun Jian and headed to the gynecology department without a blush on his face. In the gynecology department of Jiangqing People's Hospital, the gynecology department's female doctor, Dr. Jiang, was holding a cup of steaming tea and taking a sip as she gave consultation to a couple in front of her. "The child is already 6 months old and is developing well. Come for an ultrasound next time. Come again in August." Dr. Jiang took detailed notes for the couple in front of her with a black pen and reminded the pregnant woman's husband. Yes. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, doctor." The pregnant woman's husband bowed to Dr. Jiang excitedly. "You're welcome. Remember to bring this book next time." Dr. Jiang handed the registration book to the woman's husband. Just as Dr. Jiang passed the registration book to the pregnant woman's husband, She saw Ce, who carried Yun Jian into the clinic. Yun Jian was Dr. Zhang's gynecology department's. Dr. Zhang shook her head in pity when she saw how young and pretty Yun Jian was, but she was pregnant with a child and the child's father did not come with her. She really did not know what kind of scumbag had ruined this young lady. Chapter 20:30. He would pay however much it cost. Was this man a rich second-generation heir? Was he that rich? What Dr. Zhang said just now revolved around one main theme. She thought that Yun Jian and Ce were both university students and were raising children at such a young age. Of course, it was fine to have children at such a young age. However, students at Yun Jian and Ce's age were still children in university. Normal university students relied on their parents for their daily expenses. Other than earning some extra money, they had no other income. The most important thing in raising a child was money. Money for milk powder, clothes, baby products and so on. Which one of these did not require money? Raising a child from a young age was not only costly but also physically and mentally exhausting. Of course, money was the most important thing. Dr. Zhang was not superficial. This was the truth. Without money, one could not do anything, much less raise a child into adulthood. In spite of it, Ce's words shocked Dr. Zhang and the couple sitting opposite her. As long as Yun Jian and the child's health could be guaranteed, he would pay however much it was. On second thought, if Ce was a rich second-generation heir and had a rich father, it would not be so rare for his girlfriend to get pregnant and give birth to a child. Perhaps the rich second-generation heir only wanted a girl to give birth to a child and did not want to marry the girl into his family? Dr. Zhang shook her head and stopped thinking about it. She wrote down some pregnancy-stabilizing medicine for Yun Jian in her notebook. In 2002, doctors and hospitals were not as high-tech as they were now when prescribing medicine. Now, they only needed to enter the prescription into the computer and swipe their medical card. In this era, doctors would write down the prescription in the hospital's notebook and let the patient pay at the cashier to get the medicine. After Dr. Zhang was done prescribing the medicine, she carefully reminded Ce of some things that pregnant women should pay attention to before handing the notebook to Ce. Remember not to have sexual intercourse in the first 3 months of pregnancy, or it might lead to a miscarriage. Don't do it too frequently after 4 months. Ce remembered every word that Dr. Zhang said clearly. This was related to his Xiao Jian and his child's health, so of course, he had to listen carefully. Ce and Yun Jian listened carefully and began to look forward to the arrival of their child. A paramedic rushed in. The medical staff rushed into Dr. Zhang's outpatient room. The person held a stack of datasheets in his hand and shouted at Dr. Zhang in shock. Dr. Zhang, there's been a mistake. I made a mistake just now. The female university student named Yun Jian was not pregnant. He must have mixed it up with the data of another female university student. The pregnant one is another female university student. Both Yun Jian and Ce's eyes glinted with a deep glint. Not pregnant? What's going on? Dr. Zhang was also surprised. Then, Dr. Zhang stood up and asked. 15 minutes later, Dr. Zhang bowed deeply to Yun Jian and Ce and apologized. She said that the ultrasound machine had mixed up the data of a college girl not long ago. The one who was pregnant was not Yun Jian but the other university student. Yun Jian was slightly disappointed when she heard the news, but she breathed a sigh of relief. After all, it was too sudden for her to be a mother. Welcoming the child when she was prepared was the wisest choice. Ce frowned and looked at Dr. Zhang from the side, repeating, "Not pregnant." "Yes, your girlfriend isn't pregnant." Dr. Zhang nodded. Initially, she thought that Ce was genuinely nice to Yun Jian, which was why he asked for Yun Jian to give birth to his child. However, looking at Ce's current expression, Dr. Zhang felt like he was about to kill someone. Could it be that he was a rich second-generation heir who wanted his girlfriend to give birth to his child? Was he going to flip out now that he knew that his girlfriend was not pregnant? Dr. Zhang sighed. This girl named Yun Jian would probably fall out of favor with this man in the future. Just as Dr. Zhang thought so, Ce pulled Yun Jian into his arms and pressed her head against his chest. In front of Dr. Zhang and the paramedic just now, he told Yun Jian gently. "Xiao Jian, whether you're pregnant or not, I'll protect you with my life." Chapter 20:31. Ce's words were heartwarming. Yun Jian's disappointment was enveloped by warmth when she heard it. Honestly, it was impossible for Ce not to be disappointed. Thinking about it, however, his Xiao Jian was still young. If he really made her pregnant so early, he would be robbing her of her youth. Moreover, early pregnancy was bad for a woman's health. Once he thought about it, he felt relieved. Do not ask how Ce knew that early pregnancy was bad for a woman's health. Dr. Zhang's consultation room was a gynecology consultation room. There were posters on the wall beside Dr. Zhang about pregnancy. Early pregnancy was bad for a woman and her baby's development. Of course, if she accidentally got pregnant, abortion would be even more harmful to her health. Ce would never let Yun Jian do that. Now that she was not pregnant, she could only say that she was a little disappointed. Hearing Ce's words, Yun Jian was touched. She grabbed Dr. Zhang's large palm in front of her and nodded. No matter what happened, she would go through thick and thin with him. Dr. Zhang had seen many couples, but she had never seen one like Yun Jian and Ce. Knowing that they were pregnant, both of them were determined to keep the baby. Both of them were university students, so the man did not urge the woman to have an abortion. On the contrary, when Ce found out that Yun Jian was pregnant, he carried her in carefully with joy on his face. Later, when he found out that Yun Jian was not pregnant, Ce said what he did. He said that he would protect her with his life. These words were not grand and vigorous, nor were they exaggerated. Instead, they were very ordinary and simple, yet they were able to warm one's heart. It was Dr. Zhang's first time witnessing such sincere love. She was truly stunned. Before Yun Jian and Ce left the clinic, they accidentally caught a glimpse of the name of the girl who was really pregnant. Yun Jian was not unfamiliar with the girl's name. It was Mo Lianhua. After leaving the hospital in shock, Ce saw that Yun Jian was also hungry, so she dragged Yun Jian to a nearby restaurant for a meal. For the next 2 days, Yun Jian took 2 days off. She stayed with Ce for 2 days and went sightseeing near the university town. They lived like a normal couple. Of course, Ce did not neglect what he was supposed to do. However, during this period, Ce had taken sufficient precautions. It was better to wait for both of them to get used to it and for his Xiao Jian to grow up before having children. 2 days later, Ce returned to Anhan as scheduled. Yun Jian, who had taken 2 days off, also returned to school. Her period, which had not come for more than a month, came to visit Yun Jian as scheduled. At that moment, Yun Jian realized that her belly had shrunk again. Thinking back carefully, before Gu Nianji dragged her to try on clothes that day, they had eaten an entire street. He ate until his stomach was about to burst. There was a reason why her belly had grown so big. In the dorm, her roommate, Miao Li, was holding an invitation and passing it to Yun Jian, who had not returned to the dorm for 2 days. This is for you. It's an invitation to the black market party tomorrow night. It's from someone in River Town's underground black market. Many girls and boys in our school have been invited to attend. It's said that we can see underground racing, boxing, and a series of things that we usually don't get to see tomorrow night. Most of the people in school are attending. You should go too. Ever since they found out that Yun Jian was studying in the military school, other than Zhu Huili, her other 2 roommates, Miao Li and Shi Shujuan, were much friendlier to Yun Jian. Yun Jian, let's go together. Most of the students in school are attending. It's said to be a big event. You can see a lot of things. Zhu Huili was washing her feet when she saw Miao Li passing the invitation to Yun Jian, so she spoke up quickly. River Town's underground black market was also a gang? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Coincidentally, she was going to set up a trap in River Town 2 months later to eradicate Reverse Emperor. If she could rope in the forces of River Town's underground gangs, it would definitely be beneficial. Yun Jian accepted the invitation from Miao Li and nodded at Zhu Huili. Eh. He was the one who had refuted Yun Jian in the VIP room of the bar last time. He had scorned Yun Jian for being as good as her school's computer teacher. His name is Zhou Zheng. Zhou Zheng was ugly, but he liked to talk dirty and often showed off in front of the girls. Now that there were so many girls standing around at such a big event, he looked for an opportunity to find a topic to talk about. Oh my god, the leader of the gang in Jiangqing is the father of the most handsome boy in Dongfang University. Is it true? Zhou Zheng, don't talk nonsense. The girls didn't know Song Yu's identity, so they all screamed exaggeratedly. They were even more interested in Zhou Zheng's question. Hey, it's normal that you don't know. My good brother Song Yu is so low-key. He is indeed the son of the underground gang leader that you invited today. The future successor. Zhou Zhang started to boast again. His words attracted the screams of the girls around him. In fact, Zhou Zhang and Song Yu weren't very familiar with each other. They were just friends and brothers. If you have any questions, just ask. Zhou Zhang said exaggeratedly. Although Zhou Zhang was ugly, the girls liked to hear him brag. Hence, they all rushed forward to ask. Just as Zhou Zhang was surrounded by the girls, Yun Jian looked ahead and asked Mo Bufan, "Is the number one gang in Jiangqing City the Fortune Wolf Gang?" After hearing Yun Jian's words, Mo Bufan nodded. Yes. Hearing this, Yun Jian's lips curled into a red arc. You went to university in Jiangqing City. Haven't you heard of this? Zhou Zhang, who had been joking around with the girls, turned to look at Yun Jian and sneered. Zhou Zhang was already unhappy with Yun Jian's domineering attitude. Now that he had the opportunity to say this, he quickly spoke up. What he got in return was Yun Jian's disregard. Zhou Zhang was very unhappy about this. That's Song Yu, the most handsome boy in school. At this moment, a girl's voice was heard. Everyone turned to look at him. They saw Song Yu standing next to a masculine middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s. He was surrounded by a group of bodyguards and they were walking towards them. That must be the boss of the Fortune Wolf Gang. Oh my god. Song Yu is so handsome. He's so low-key. He even hid his identity as the eldest son of the Fortune Wolf Gang's boss. There were a few more screams and cheers. At this moment, Song Yu walked towards Yun Jian and the others while the girls screamed. Song Yu was a little proud when he brought his father to Yun Jian and the others. Especially when Yun Jian looked sideways at her father, the boss of the number one gang in Jiangqing City, Song Fan. She must be thinking that her father was the boss of the number one gang in Jiangqing City. Then she must be stunned. As soon as Song Yu thought of this, he raised his head proudly. However, before Song Yu could raise his head, Yun Jian looked at Song Fan, the boss of the Fortune Wolf Gang. Her aura was not inferior to Song Fan's at all. She curled her lips and spoke directly to Song Fan in the tone of the boss of the number one gang in Jia Province. Are you Song Fan, the boss of the number one gang in Jiangqing City, the Fortune Wolf Gang? A. Chapter 2033. Are you Song Fan, the leader of the Fortune Wolf Gang, the number one gang in Jiangqing City? Yun Jian's question stunned everyone present. Especially Song Yu. Song Yu originally thought that Yun Jian would be shocked by his identity when she saw that his father was the leader of the number one gang in Jiangqing City. However, Song Yu thought too much. Not only was Yun Jian not surprised by Song Yu's identity as the son of the leader of the number one gang in Jiangqing City, but everyone present was shocked. Yun Jian actually dared to speak to Song Fan, the leader of the number one gang in Jiangqing City, in such a tone? Did she not know what kind of person she was talking to? Song Fan. He was a famous figure in the underworld. In Jia Province, Song Fan's existence was not to be said to be feared, but at least when it was mentioned, it was a figure that frightened people. And Song Yu had always been proud of his father. Song Yu had never announced his identity as the son of the leader of the Fortune Wolf Gang. Today, Song Yu went all out. Song Yu was even more certain of one thing because he saw Yun Jian order Dai Annie and the other two to deal with a dozen or so killers at the pavilion last time. Yun Jian and he were the most compatible people in the world. There was no one else. It was because Yun Jian was living in such a bloody environment. Was it not the same for him? Father, this is the girl I mentioned to you before. Her name is Yun Jian. She's the girl I mentioned to you before, the girl with the same background as our family. Song Yu had already mentioned Yun Jian's every move in the pavilion to his father, Song Fan. Song Yu also said that only such a girl was worthy of him with a noble status. When Song Fan heard Yun Jian's question, he was stunned for a moment. For a moment, he had an illusion that he saw the behavior and tone of Luo Sha, the leader of the number one gang in Jia Province, in Yun Jian. Of course, Song Fan had never seen the true face of Luo Sha, the leader of the number one gang in Jia Province. Song Fan had heard every word and action of Luo Sha in the past. Song Fan was only the leader of the #1 gang in Jiang City. In the entire Jia province, Song Fan's status was not enough to meet Rakshasa. But on second thought, the girl in front of her was only her son's friend. She was also a girl that her son was rarely interested in. A girl that he truly wanted to become his future partner. How could it be the famous and ruthless Rakshasa, who had become the leader of the #1 sect in Jia province in the shortest amount of time 2 years ago? How was this possible? After thinking about it, he knew that this kind of thing was impossible. So Song Fan shook his head. After knowing that Yun Jian was his son's sweetheart, Song Fan gave face to Yun Jian and replied to her in public. Yes. He was Song Fan, the leader of the Fortune Wolf Gang, the #1 gang in Jiangqing City. Song Fan had an aura that many people didn't have. It was different from his son Song Yu's sloppy appearance. Song Fan's aura was what a gang leader should have. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and immediately had a good impression of Song Fan. The good impression here referred to the feeling of disgust and friendliness towards a person. As for Song Fan's son Song Yu, she tended to dislike him. But Song Fan's aura and behavior were worthy of Yun Jian's admiration. Are you crazy? How dare you talk to the leader of the Fortune Wolf Gang in such a tone? Do you want to die? At that moment, Zhou Zhang, who had been trembling and frightened by Yun Jian's tone to Song Fan, cursed at Yun Jian in a very soft but angry voice. The students standing around were so scared that their faces changed when they knew who Yun Jian was talking to. Yun Jian was crazy. How dare she talk to a gangster in such a tone? And Song Fan was the leader of the #1 gang in Jiang City. However, just when everyone thought that Yun Jian was courting death, Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at Song Fan. In front of so many people, she said something that made them feel that she was courting death and wondered what she was going to do. Leader of the Fortune Wolf Gang in Jiangqing, in 2 months, lend me your brothers. A. Chapter 2034. Yun Jian. What on earth was she trying to do? Everyone present was stunned by Yun Jian's words. Song Yu was also stunned. Why did she want to borrow his father's gang members? Usually, when 2 gangs were having a dispute, the leader of one gang would ask for help from the other gang's leader. Was she going to borrow people to fight with many people? She wasn't the gang leader, so why did she need so many people? Song Fan was also slightly stunned. As the leader of the #1 gang in Jiangqing City, Song Fan's thinking was naturally different from his son Song Yu's. Song Fan was the mature and steady type. In fact, this wasn't the first time Song Fan had seen his son Song Yu take a liking to a girl and introduce her to him. But those girls all had a common characteristic: to please him. Yun Jian was completely different. Which girl didn't please and flatter the leader of the #1 gang in Jiangqing City like the other girls when she saw him? Instead, she wanted to borrow his gang members? Why was this? Song Yu asked what Song Fan wanted to ask. Yun Jian, why do you want to borrow my father's gang members? What can she do? Isn't it just to show off? Wasn't she like this in the big private room of the bar? She thought she was very powerful and amazing. She even showed off her computer skills in front of us. The person who spoke was Lan Yi, who had shouted at Yun Jian when she first met Matthew in Jiangqing City. Then, she had spoken rudely in the big private room of the bar. Despite Yun Jian's stunning hacking skills and extraordinary capabilities, she was still a nobody. But what was the use of that? Without a backer, what was she? Song Yu, the father of the most handsome guy in Jiangqing City, was the leader of the #1 gang in Jiangqing City. No matter how powerful Yun Jian was, even if Yun Jian was an assassin or a secret agent, she was outnumbered. Moreover, she wasn't. Lan Yi's words immediately resonated with the girls present. Many girls did not like Yun Jian because she had not only attracted the attention of Brother Kai, Mo Bufan, Su Zhanglong, and Wei Jingxian from River City University of Electronic Technology, but she had also attracted a lot of attention. Now, even the attention of Dongfang University's most handsome boy, Song Yu, was on Yun Jian. Without a doubt, this pushed Yun Jian to the peak of the girls' envy and jealousy. Why aren't Lian Hua and Pan Qian here yet? I feel that Lian Hua is the most compatible person with Mr. Song. Exactly. Yun Jian can do anything, but she has to show off in front of boys. Attract the attention of the boys. Does she lack men that much? The surrounding girls began to whisper to each other. Yun Jian naturally heard it, but she didn't care. Just as the girls were secretly chatting, Song Fan's voice sounded. As long as you can give me a convincing reason, my brothers from the Kailang gang can be lent to you. Song Fan was indeed courageous. He didn't reject her outright, but instead said this to Yun Jian. However, just as Song Fan finished speaking, Song Yu added, Yun Jian, as long as you agree to be my girlfriend and break up with your boyfriend, the Kailang gang will be at your disposal. You will be the future wife of the Kailang gang's head. As soon as Song Yu said this, the group of girls around him exclaimed. Did they hear it wrong? Song Yu actually confessed to Yun Jian. And it was such an affectionate confession. So, do you agree? Song Yu asked cautiously. I agree. At this moment, the surrounding girls wanted to answer Song Yu for Yun Jian. Song Yu was in a relationship with Yun Jian as his wife. One had to know that Song Yu's girlfriends had always been for fun. But now, Song Yu as his wife, was asking Yun Jian to be his girlfriend? Just when the girls were envious and thought that Yun Jian would agree to Song Yu's request, Yun Jian's cold voice mixed with the flow of the air. She said arrogantly to Song Yu and Song Fan, which stunned everyone present. I'm here today to tell you that I'm going to borrow the Kailang gang's people, not to ask for permission. If you don't want to lend them to me, then you can wait to be removed from Xia province. A. Chapter 2035. Yun Jian was not joking. Su Zetian was now managing Falcon Hall for her. Falcon Hall's ability was now so powerful that it could annihilate any mafia group effortlessly. This was the result of Su Zetian's hard work for the past 2 years. Back then, Su Zetian thought that he could only be the boss of Longmen City for the rest of his life. Now that he was the top mafia group in Xia province, he was more motivated than ever. Returning to reality and hearing Yun Jian's words, Song Yu, Song Fan, Mo Bufan, and the rest of the martial arts club, including Brother Kai and the rest, were stunned. Would the Fortune Wolf gang wait to be removed from Xia province if they did not agree to her request? This was the Fortune Wolf gang. How dare Yun Jian say something like that? Did she really think that she was some kind of powerful figure? Everyone thought that Yun Jian had lost her mind. If she wasn't crazy, how could she have said such words that could possibly lead to a fatal disaster? Even Mo Bufan was slightly worried about Yun Jian, so he spoke up. Yun Jian, don't spout nonsense like that. Mo Bufan said that out of goodwill. After all, the truth was right there. No matter how outstanding Yun Jian's ability was, she was only one person after all. On the other hand, the boss of Jiang City's top mafia group, Song Fan, had a large group of people behind him. It was easy to tell who had the upper hand with just a glance. Just when the atmosphere was at its most tense and everyone thought that Song Fan would explode in the next second, a brisk and loud middle-aged man's voice rang throughout the place. Ha ha ha. Good temper. Young lady, I like your temper. Everyone saw Song Fan, who was standing in front of Yun Jian and beside Song Yu, guffawing before looking at Yun Jian with admiration. Not only was Song Fan not enraged by Yun Jian's words, his impression of Yun Jian had improved instead. Everyone's jaws dropped in shock. Young lady, I'll see you after tonight's gathering. Now that my old friends are here, I have to go entertain them. Don't leave first. Song Fan's eyes flashed as he said to Yun Jian. Yun Jian's red arc arched again at the sight of it. Song Fan was indeed different from Song Yu. He was a smart person. See you after the party, Yun Jian said in front of everyone after Song Fan gave her a hint. After that, Song Fan was escorted by his dozen or so bodyguards as he walked towards the group of important figures in the distance. This group of people were all dressed in upper-class clothes. Some of them were Song Fan's partners, while others were Song Fan's old friends. No one saw the glint in Song Fan's eyes before he left. If outsiders did not know the meaning behind Yun Jian's arrogant tone, Song Fan had already guessed Yun Jian's identity. As she watched Song Fan leave, the red arc on Yun Jian's face disappeared. That's it? Nothing happened at all? The surrounding people were bewildered. Chapter 2036. Song Yu suggested when he saw that Song Fan had gone far away. That night, even though Song Fan had sent out the invitation in the name of the #1 sect in Rivertown, the banquet was held halfway up the mountain. That was because they knew that many important people would come over that night. Furthermore, it was a gathering at night, so it was different from a normal ball venue. It was very big and there was a lot of traffic. There were at least tens of thousands of people gathered here tonight. Therefore, Xiaofan naturally couldn't provide all the food and desserts. In addition, although Xiaofan's fortune Wolfgang sounded scary, they had never hurt ordinary people. Therefore, there were a lot of street food stalls, or game vendors who played balloons, archery, and darts, as if they were going to a market. There were barbecue, fried snacks, noodles, and so on. There were also games that children liked to play, such as balloons, archery, and darts. If it wasn't for Xiaofan's invitation, this place would have been bustling with noise and excitement, turning it into a night market for people to go to. In addition, the lights illuminated the surroundings as bright as day. If it weren't for the surrounding mountains, people would believe it even if someone said that it was a foot of a bustling city. As soon as Song Yu finished speaking, everyone present nodded. "You guys go. I won't go." Yun Jian turned her head and said to Zhu Huili, Mo Bufan, and other members of the martial arts club. Song Yu's words obviously aroused the interest of Zhu Huili, Mo Bufan, and others. Even if the people present were no longer elementary, middle, or high school students, they were still very interested in this kind of game. "You won't go. How could that be?" Song Yu muttered the last sentence in his heart. How could Yun Jian not go? If she didn't go, how could he carry out the next step of his plan? Just now when he brought his father, Xiaofan, to Yun Jian, Song Yu thought that Yun Jian would change her opinion of him after knowing that his father was Xiaofan. However, Song Yu never expected that Yun Jian would have such an attitude. Fortunately, he had a next step of his plan. Song Yu quickly winked at Miao Li, who had been standing at the side without saying anything. He wanted Miao Li to think of a solution. Seeing this, Miao Li hurried over to Zhu Huili, held Zhu Huili's chubby hand, and said to Yun Jian, let's go together. Let's all join in the fun. Isn't that right, Huili? You also want Yun Jian to go with you, right? Zhu Huili wasn't used to Miao Li suddenly calling out to her in such a gentle tone. She nodded blankly and said, Yes. Yun Jian, let's go together. You're quite lonely here. It'll be more lively if we go together. Yun Jian saw how Song Yu winked at Miao Li just now. Hearing Zhu Huili's words, Yun Jian agreed. She wanted to see what Song Yu was going to do. Chapter 2037. Song Yu reached out his hand to Yun Jian, waiting for Yun Jian's reply. Song Yu stood in the love circle of 99 roses, waiting for Yun Jian to walk towards him. Normal boys would kneel down on one knee when proposing. However, Song Yu disliked kneeling on one knee, afraid that it would dirty his knee. Song Yu thought that he had already arranged 99 roses in the love circle. This kind of sincerity was something that he used to disdain. In the past, whenever he wanted a girl, that girl would obediently walk into his arms. Hence, he was determined to have Yun Jian today. Be together. Be together. Be together. At this time, someone shouted, and the surrounding people followed suit. Even the girls who usually didn't get along with Yun Jian shouted. Not only the surrounding students, but even the passers-by who saw this scene stopped, clapped their hands and shouted. The atmosphere reached its climax in an instant. Under the uproar of the surrounding girls, Song Yu saw that Yun Jian wasn't walking towards him as he expected. He lowered his eyes, pulled a smile, and looked at Yun Jian as he continued his emotional speech. Yun Jian, maybe you don't know me well enough, but I'll let you know me. You said that we're not from the same world. Today, I'll confess my identity to everyone, to you. I'm not an ordinary person. I'm the son of the Fortune Wolfgang's leader. Like you, we're from the bloody world. That's why we're a match made in heaven. I swear, from today onwards, loving you is my life's mission. Please be my girlfriend. Song Yu had so many girlfriends, and this wasn't the first time he said such emotional words. When the surrounding girls heard Song Yu's emotional speech, they were so touched that they wished they could become Yun Jian and accept Song Yu's love. Hearing Song Yu's words, Yun Jian only wanted to sneer. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of a girl not far away. She immediately narrowed her eyes and coldly looked at Song Yu. Are you sure we're from the same world? I'm sure. I love you. I've never given my heart to any girl before. Only you are worthy of my heart. Song Yu said without hesitation. However, before Song Yu could finish his emotional speech, Yun Jian caught a glimpse of the girl's figure behind Song Yu. Slap. The girl slapped Song Yu in the face. The girl was none other than Emo Lianhua. At this moment, Emo Lianhua looked at Song Yu in disbelief, as if she had been betrayed. You, I really misjudged you. I thought you were sincere to me. I didn't expect it to be you. Emo Lianhua looked sadly at Song Yu, who was standing in the love circle formed by 99 roses. As Emo Lianhua spoke, she turned her head and glared at Yun Jian as if she wanted to kill Yun Jian. She looked fierce as if Yun Jian was a mistress. At this time, Emo Lianhua no longer pretended to be pure. She glared at Yun Jian fiercely and shouted at Yun Jian. You third party! Mistress! How can you be so shameless? Chapter 2038. 2 years ago, Yun Jian had been kidnapped by an assassin organization. In the end, they found out that the organization called the Soul Eater was Shin Ji's. And Yun Jian had accepted Shin Ji's challenge. Judging from Yun Jian's tone, she seemed to know the woman who'd charged at Yun Jian with a long knife. And 006? What kind of name was 095? Why did it sound like a serial number for someone in a certain troop? What were they talking about? Or did they know each other before? What are you talking about? What 006? What 095? Can you still defeat me? You've assassinated me more than 600 times? Yun Jian, I'm telling you, you is mine. You can't take him away. You're always seducing men with that foxy face of yours. Don't think I'm afraid of you. Yu's father is the boss of the Fortune Wolf gang. If you have any self-awareness, get the hell away from me. Otherwise, I don't care who you are. I'll kill you. Emo Lianhua's head was filled with hatred. She looked at Yun Jian, then at Shen Ji. She spoke with a face full of loathing and disgust. Song Yu was hers. His was hers. No one could take him away. Yun Jian held 2 shiny butterfly knives in her hands and looked at Shen Ji. She ignored Emo Lianhua, who was yelling at her like a madwoman. Back then, Shen Ji had indeed asked her for the address. She had even said that she would definitely come back and defeat her. When that long knife had suddenly appeared and slashed at her, Yun Jian had already guessed that it was Shen Ji. Because only Shen Ji could use such a fast and agile long knife. Yun Jian and Shen Ji were both good at knives. But the difference was that Yun Jian was good at butterfly knives, while Shen Ji was good at long knives. If you wanted to know why, you'd have to go back to Han. Back then, Yun Jian and Shen Ji had been trapped together with all the children who'd been captured by Han. In the 3rd year, the higher-ups had the children kill each other. The rules of the game were to kill everyone until only 3 people were left. Only 3 of them survived. The night before the massacre, the children were allowed to choose their own weapons. Many children chose long-range weapons like guns and ammunition because long-range weapons like guns and ammunition gave people a feeling of safety. Yun Jian and Shen Ji were the only ones who chose a butterfly knife and a saber. At that time, Mad Dragon had yet to join Han. That battle was Yun Jian and Shen Ji's first battle in Han. Nearly 100 children had slaughtered each other. In the end, only 3 had survived. All the children who chose long-range weapons like guns were killed by Yun Jian and Shen Ji. Only Yun Jian, Shen Ji, and another child survived. After the rest of the children died, an Han organization recruited a new batch of people, and one of them was Mad Dragon. The Triennial Massacre was the unchanging rule of the Han organization. As long as they were in Han's assassin training camp, they would have to participate in a battle every 3 years. Only 3 people could survive this battle. Yun Jian and Shen Ji were the survivors of the first massacre. After that, an Han organization would continue to train the newly recruited children. 3 years later, these children would be allowed to fight against the 3 survivors. In this cycle, Yun Jian, Shen Ji, and Mad Dragon had all climbed out of a pile of corpses. It wasn't an exaggeration at all. As for the butterfly knife, it stayed with Yun Jian and stayed with her until the end. Shen Ji had always used a long knife. This had never changed. Back in reality, Yun Jian had known Shen Ji since she was 5. She had always seen Shen Ji as a rival. When she saw the long knife, she had guessed who it was. Emo Lianhua, don't be so ungrateful. Song Yu, who had been slapped by Emo Lianhua, pushed Lianhua in front of everyone and roared. After shouting, Song Yu hurriedly stood in front of Yun Jian and stopped Shin Ji. He said to Yun Jian, I told you that we're from the same world. Don't be afraid. I'll definitely protect you. As soon as Song Yu finished speaking, Shen Ji laughed. Protect her? Do you know who 006 is? And you want to protect her? Shen Ji almost choked from laughing. This was probably the funniest joke she had ever heard in her life. Chapter 2039. Shen Ji, who had planned on fighting Yun Jian again, crossed her arms and loosely placed her sword next to her arm. She looked at Song Yu with disdain and continued to laugh. Kid, do you think 006 is from the same world as you? That's the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. Do you know who 006 is? The number of people she's killed is more than the number of arrogant words you've said in your entire life. Who do you think you are? If this was in the past, 006 would have killed you in one blow. From the same world? Don't be so funny. Do you know that back then, dozens of high-level assassins with guns and bombs faced 006 alone? 006 didn't even have a sword, but in a few minutes, she took their guns and killed everyone. She was only 14 years old. Do you know that when she faced a powerful assassin organization, not only did she not get killed, she even wiped out that famous assassin organization? Don't talk about a gang leader like you. Do you know that international black market tycoons aren't even worthy of carrying her shoes? Although she and I are mortal enemies, I, Shen Ji, will only submit to 006 in my life. Putting aside everything else, she is 006, and she is the goal I have been pursuing all my life. Wherever 006 is, that's where the international tycoons, businessmen, and politicians won't dare to sleep. That's right. Shen Ji was in awe of Yun Jian from the bottom of her heart. But at the same time, Shen Ji was very strong. She refused to admit defeat. Even if it was 1,000 times, 10,000 times, she would still refuse to admit defeat to Yun Jian. Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, and everyone else were shocked by Shen Ji's words. Yun Jian was actually such a terrifying person. Who was she? But before anyone could react, Shen Ji had already walked in front of Yun Jian and kicked away Song Yu, who was 1 meter away from Yun Jian. Then, Shen Ji met Yun Jian's eyes in front of everyone. Shen Ji, who had just been speaking up for Yun Jian, suddenly changed her expression. She laughed loudly and provoked Yun Jian. However, the stronger you are, the more I, Shen Ji, want to defeat you. My only goal in this life is to surpass you. Shen Ji's words sounded like a provocation, but also like a blood oath. Hearing Shen Ji's words, the others thought that Yun Jian was probably displeased that Shen Ji said something like that as well. But just as everyone thought so, they saw Yun Jian's lips curl into a red arc as she replied to Shen Ji in front of everyone. I'll give you 10 moves to repay your kindness. Last time, when the mysterious man had been collecting puppets, Yun Jian had asked Shen Ji to stop training puppets for the mysterious man. Shen Ji had given her face. This debt of gratitude was repaid today. Haha, then I won't hold back. Shen Ji, who had been speaking up for Yun Jian a second ago, now looked like he was dealing with an enemy. He mercilessly swung his sword at Yun Jian. The surrounding passers-by, as well as all the university students who were invited here, were so scared that they retreated to the corner. Although they didn't leave and waited to watch the show, they were still scared witless. Yun Jian. Song Yu wanted to go help Yun Jian, but when someone pulled him back to the corner, he pretended to be worried about Yun Jian, but he didn't break free. Both Yun Jian and this woman who called herself Shen Ji had swords in their hands. But the second before he swung his sword, he heard Shen Ji look at Yun Jian. Then, in front of everyone, he sneered at the cowering Song Yu. TSK. Coward. Kid, 006 isn't someone a piece of trash like you can covet. You and she are from 2 completely different worlds. Even if you're the son of an international arms tycoon, you're dreaming if you want to be in the same world as 006. Go to hell. Chapter 2040. After Shen Ji taunted Song Yu in front of everyone, he turned to look at Yun Jian and said faintly, "You're right. TSK, I didn't think you'd be bothered by trash like this after a few years. 006. Based on your personality, it's a miracle that this guy is still alive. After Shen Ji had slashed at Yun Jian in front of everyone, Yun Jian hadn't fought back. She'd only dodged to the side. Shen Ji hadn't been in a hurry to attack and had started talking. Hearing Shen Ji's words, everyone's faces froze. Even if they were dumb, they knew that the person 006 was referring to must be Yun Jian. Song Yu and Mo Lianhua, who hadn't dared to speak from the beginning, were shocked by Shen Ji's words. Especially Song Yu. Song Yu and Mo Lianhua didn't doubt Shen Ji's words at all. After all, Song Yu and Mo Lianhua had seen with their own eyes how Yun Jian had killed 4 assassins at the pavilion, and then ordered Dai Annie and the other 2 to kill the dozen or so assassins. Now, a woman who called herself Shen Ji had appeared. What she said about Yun Jian was almost exactly the same as what Yun Jian had described back at the pavilion. Thus, when Song Yu and Mo Lianhua heard Shen Ji's words, their faces paled. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian didn't directly respond to Shen Ji's words. She raised her eyebrows slightly and said softly, 9 more moves. Just now, Yun Jian had let Shen Ji have 1 move. She'd said she'd let Shen Ji have 10 moves, not 1 less. TSK, 006, you're still the same. You're so calculative about this kind of thing. Shen Ji squeezed the long knife in her hand and smiled. Of course I'm calculative with you. Yun Jian returned Shen Ji's cold smile. Shen Ji tightened her grip on the long knife and suddenly walked to the side. I don't like being watched like a monkey. Let's go to an open space to fight. With that, Shen Ji left the crowd and walked to an open space halfway up the mountain. Seeing this, Yun Jian put away her butterfly knife and followed Shen Ji. Let's go and cheer for Yun Jian. Mo Bufan didn't understand the relationship between Yun Jian and Shen Ji, nor did he understand what they were talking about. However, he called the others from the martial arts club and quickly followed. Zhu Huili naturally followed. Brother Kai led a group of people and followed of them. Let's go. Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan. Song Yu cast a sidelong glance at Mo Lianhua and wanted to chase after her. Of course I was wrong. Of course. I'm of Mize. Please give me another chance. I beg you. Mo Lianhua grabbed Song Yu's hand and begged. The last time Mo Lianhua hid it from Song Yu, she had secretly torn the condom when they were having an affair. After Song Yu found out, he was so angry that he yelled at Mo Lianhua that he would break up with her if she got pregnant. Mo Lianhua went to the hospital for a checkup. Only then did she confidently tell Song Yu that she wasn't pregnant. She wanted Song Yu to give her another chance. But now that Song Yu had taken a liking to Yun Jian, he didn't want to go back. He pushed Mo Lianhua away and ran in the direction that Yun Jian had left. He didn't even look at Mo Lianhua. Mo Lianhua angrily chased after him. Gu Nianji, who was staying in the same hotel as Li Nong, didn't know that they were staying in the same hotel. That night, Yun Jian wasn't there. Gu Nianji was bored and decided to walk around Jiang City. She wanted to walk around mainly because she was too hungry. She hadn't even had dinner yet. Therefore, when she came out of the hotel room, Gu Nianji skipped and ran quickly. When she passed by the corner of the hotel, Gu Nianji ran too fast and bumped into a wall of flesh. She hissed and rubbed her head. Just as she was about to raise her head and scold the person who had come over for being blind, Gu Nianji stopped. She saw Li Nong standing in front of her. Li Nong glanced at Gu Nianji from the corner of his eyes. He obviously knew that Gu Nianji was staying in this hotel. Then, the words that came out of Li Nong's mouth made Gu Nianji want to tear his mouth apart on the spot. However, he had a cold expression on his face. On the outside, he said to Gu Nianji, "What a coincidence. I was just about to look for you. The last time you sat on my lap, I felt very comfortable. Your butt is so springy and fleshy. I like it very much. Can you let me touch it again? Eh?" One had to know that to the people of the myriad continents, going to the gods' continent was their lifelong wish. After all, to the people of the myriad continents, the gods' continent was a place limited to legends. If they were able to travel around the gods' continent, some of the people on the myriad continents would die without regrets. Really? Are you telling the truth? Then bring me there quickly. Gu Nianji clasped her hands, which were covering her buttocks, and put them by her mouth. She pouted and looked at Li Nong with her little eyes blinking. Gu Nianji, who had just called herself sister, instantly turned into a little woman. My condition just now. Li Nong mentioned it. Gu Nianji clenched her fists and waved them in a place where Li Nong couldn't see. Then she said weakly, then I can only do it once. Once. As soon as Gu Nianji agreed softly, Li Nong, Chapter 2042. In order to go to Deity Continent, Gu Nianji had sold herself out. Of course, she was only selling herself out. It was just a touch. It was not like she would lose a piece of flesh. When she came back from visiting Deity Continent, she was going to beat this pervert to death. Sister Jian had actually taken in such a pervert as her disciple. At the same time, in the hotel hallway, Gu Nianji shut her eyes tightly as Li Nong wrapped his arms around her and placed his long hands on her butt. Ah, this pervert really dared to touch her butt. Gu Nianji was as red as an apple. Are you done? Gu Nianji covered her face, not daring to look at Li Nong. If she opened her eyes now, she would be able to gaze at Li Nong's chest. Right now, Gu Nianji's face and Li Nong's chest were only separated by her hand. Gu Nianji's hand was pressed against Li Nong's chest. Li Nong's chest was facing Gu Nianji as he wrapped his arm around her waist and placed his hand on her butt. Just as Gu Nianji urged Li Nong to stop and even pushed him away to tell him that it was enough, Li Nong's hand on Gu Nianji's butt grabbed. Ah! Gu Nianji cried out involuntarily. When she reacted, she pushed Li Nong away and looked at him in disbelief with a flushed face. I already said it's only for a while. How could you? Very soft, Li Nong commented. Gu Nianji's face flushed again. All right, hurry up and take me to Deity Continent. Gu Nianji said. Not now. Li Nong tilted his head and turned his handsome side profile in front of Gu Nianji. You're going back on your word. Gu Nianji was still embarrassed. Li Nong turned his head and presented his handsome face to Gu Nianji. The next second, he didn't say anything. He walked over and grabbed Gu Nianji's hand. Not long after, he brought Gu Nianji back to her hotel room, the venue of the gathering where Jiang City's top gang had sent out invitations. Yun Jian and Shen Ji had just arrived at a spacious area. The people who had followed Yun Jian and Shen Ji also followed them here. Shen Ji had just arrived, and Yun Jian was still following. Suddenly, Shen Ji grabbed his sword and swung it at Yun Jian. When the agents fought, every move was fatal. As a special agent, what they learned was nothing more than how to kill a person in the fastest way possible. It didn't matter if it was an assassination or a dirty trick, as long as he could kill the other party, it was fine. He watched as Yun Jian and Shen Ji walked into the open space and started fighting before they even said anything. Everyone who came over to take a look was stunned. F***CK. He actually attacked without saying anything. Are these two women even human? His attack speed is so fast. He must have learned some martial arts. The surrounding boys broke out in a cold sweat as they watched Yun Jian and Shen Ji fight. At that moment, Yun Jian quickly gave Shen Ji 10 moves. The real battle between the two had only just begun. What's going on? Xiaofan, who was walking over with his old friends, asked when he saw Yun Jian and Shen Ji fighting. They said they're going to fight to see who wins, someone replied to Xiaofan. As the leader of a gang in Jiangqing, Xiaofan couldn't help but observe Yun Jian and Shen Ji seriously. He watched as Yun Jian started to attack after defending for 10 moves. Look at her. That girl's going to fight back. I heard she's the president of the martial arts club. Something interesting is about to happen. Haha. Someone couldn't help but get excited when he saw this. But just as everyone's excited voices died down, Yun Jian and Shen Ji's figures went from the initial quick exchange to the speed at which they exchanged moves so fast that they couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Seeing this scene, everyone's jaws dropped. Just as everyone's hearts tightened, Yun Jian had already used her butterfly knife to deflect Shen Ji's long sword. Shen Ji's long sword was flung dozens of meters away. Then, she moved sideways and circled behind Shen Ji. At the same time, Yun Jian's butterfly knife was pressed against Shen Ji's back, where his heart was. You lost. Yun Jian's crisp voice echoed throughout the arena. Yun Jian and Shen Ji had only been fighting for a minute. When experts fought, every move was fatal. The stronger they were, the faster they exchanged moves. Even though it was only a minute, Yun Jian and Shen Ji had already exchanged hundreds of moves. Neither of them showed any mercy. Anyone who could exchange hundreds of moves with Yun Jian was undoubtedly the best in the world. Ha, 006, 2 years have passed. You're even stronger than before. Shen Ji chuckled with Yun Jian's butterfly knife pressed against his back. You've improved a lot too. Yun Jian sheathed her knife. If 2 years isn't enough, then 10 years. 006, I'll definitely surpass you. Shen Ji said as he walked towards his long sword. He planned to pick it up and leave. Yun Jian admired Shen Ji's unyielding spirit. She looked at Shen Ji's back and said in front of everyone, whether it's 10 years or 20 years, I'll be waiting. But as always, you'll always be my defeated opponent. Shen Ji snorted and bent down to pick up his sword. However, at that moment, a middle-aged man standing next to Xiaofan suddenly pointed at Shen Ji's sword and said in a trembling voice, That sword! That sword! The mark on the sword! Xiaofan, could it be that the woman your son is fighting with is Shura Shen Ji, number 2 on the assassin ranking? Legend has it that Shura Shen Ji has only ever taken one person as her opponent. That person is Slaying God, number 1 on the international secret agent ranking. That girl, could it be? You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.